It's a bird.
It's a plane!
No, it's a Superman tier list coming your way. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the movie ranker, and today I'm doing a Superman tier list. I have ranked the Superman movies a few years ago, but now we got the brand new movie, and I added a few more movies into this list. I never did the Mole Men one before. I never did Supergirl before, so I'm adding all those in this time as well. So we got 10 movies to talk about, and we're going to get right into it. Just make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy videos like this. Let's kick things off with Superman and the Mole Men from the 1950s. So obviously this movie is very much a product of its time. It's in black and white. It's about this town that's drilling for oil. They go so deep, they end up hitting something, and it ends up being another civilization of these mole men, and they come out of the hole, and the people fear them because they glow. Everything they touch happens to glow, so they think they might be full of radiation. And on top of that, people just fear what they don't understand, right? They kind of form this mob mentality, and they try to take out and kill these mole men who came out of the hole. That's basically what the story is. And Clark Kent shows up with Lois Lane to report on this oil drill, and of course turns into Superman to try to protect these mole men from getting killed from these crazy townsfolks. The makeup effects and the production is not great. Of course, this is the 50s. The mole men just look like kids with like prosthetics and makeup on them. I don't know if they were actually kids or not. That's what it looked like to me. Superman doesn't get to use a whole lot of his powers because he's not like against this major villain or nothing, right? So the only thing he really does is fly around, and when he gets shot at or hit, obviously it doesn't affect him. So like I said, he's just trying to stop these townspeople from hurting these creatures, and he's just trying to make sure that they're safe, basically. And like I said, it forms this mob mentality because people fear what they don't understand. Also, at the time of this film, there was a big fear of radiation, right? And nuclear and all that. So they kind of put that in the film too with the mole men. So yeah, it's definitely a product of his time. I didn't hate it. It's kind of a mixed bag for me because I would have liked to see more action, obviously, more Superman powers, because he doesn't really get to do much aside from try to protect these creatures. So like I said, it's definitely a product of his time. It's not terrible by any means. I find it still watchable. It's a shorter film, so it kind of just flies by. It's like around an hour long, so it's not terrible, but it's not great. I think I'll put it into the D category. I think there is worse Superman movies, surprisingly. But yeah, this one's okay, but I think you should only watch it if you're a fan of like maybe older films like from the 40s and 50s era, or are a fan, such a big fan of the Superman character. You should probably still check this out just to see the very first motion picture. Up next, we got the original Superman the movie from 1978. What a classic film. The first true superhero movie that actually had a lot of money put into it. It was like a blockbuster, right? So we had like serials and all these things before this TV series. We had the Batman movie, but it was like very cheesy. It wasn't taken this seriously. So it was very nice that this movie came out. It changed the superhero genre forever, really, and it's a classic. Maybe a bit outdated to today's standards, but I really enjoy like 70s and 80s flicks, so that doesn't bother me one bit. The casting is phenomenal. Christopher Reeve is still to this day the best Superman we have ever had, and he plays Clark Kent so well too. He's so believable as both these characters. Margot Kidder as Lois Lane is awesome. I love like the spunk and the attitude she brings to the character. Very outspoken. And Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, he does play this evil genius so well, and just the charisma and that actor has, it really sells the Lex Luthor character. So I think we got perfect casting here. I think the action and everything is believable. Like, you actually believe that this man is flying through the air as Superman. Of course, they're using wires and stuff, but they really let you do that suspension of belief. It actually works here, right? You're never questioning it. And yeah, it's just a really heartfelt film. It has a lot of heart to it. It's respectful to the franchise. Like I said, it got some good action scenes. We get an origin story in here too. It starts off on Krypton. We get to learn about his heritage and everything, and how he came to Earth, and we get to see him grow up. And then the second half of the movie is him as Clark Kent and Superman saving people in Metropolis. One of the standout scenes in this film for me is when Superman rescues Lois Lane from the helicopter crash scene. That is so damn good. It's a big standout in this franchise, in my opinion. Yeah, I just really enjoy this movie. I think it was super influential. Like I said, it changed the superhero game, so it's going in S tier for me. It's probably like an A tier movie for me based on like the story and everything. But like I said, just how iconic it is and how great the casting was and everything, I think it deserves to be in S tier. Up next, we got Superman 2. Now, if you've seen my old ranking, this was my favorite out of all of them. My ranking has changed a bit on this time around because a lot of those movies were first time watches a few years ago. I was never a big Superman fan growing up, but I am now, so things change. But yeah, Superman 2 is still a blast of a movie. I think it has more fun than the first Superman movie, but I don't think the story is quite as strong as the original film. But yeah, we get the three Kryptonians coming down, the villains. We got General Zod, Ursa, and Non, I think his name is. They're great. They don't understand how Earth works or nothing. They don't understand at first why they have superpowers and how they're super strong and everything, and they're kind of learning that. And there's just a lot of humor attached to that too, like a fish out of water story. And eventually, yeah, they want to take over. They're at Washington, and then you have that big fight at the end with Superman in the city, which is cheesy, but it's so damn entertaining and fun, I find. I also like how Lois Lane starts to pick up on who Clark Kent really is, and she's like trying to throw herself in the water and stuff to see if Clark will save her as Superman and everything. And eventually she does find out about them. And I wish they would have kept that relationship like that, because I hate the ending where Superman kisses her and erases her memory. It's like, since when was that one of his powers? And I just think that's just very bad writing. And yeah, I would have liked to see a different outcome there, right? And aside from the memory loss kiss, the only other thing I really don't like about this movie is the whole fact that Superman gives up his powers to be mortal and be with Lois Lane as a human, and it only lasts like a very short amount of time in the movie, and he just goes back to getting his powers because he realizes he needs them to protect the world from these three Kryptonians who just came down. So it kind of feels like a dumb little plot line that doesn't really necessarily add up to much. Again, and we see it so often nowadays in superhero movies, like Spider-Man 2. He does the same thing, gets rid of his powers to try to protect Mary Jane, because if anybody finds out about his identity, she would be in danger as well. And I kind of get that in this story too. Lois Lane would be more in danger if people found out who Clark Kent really was and Superman. But at the same time, you're putting the whole world in danger when you give up your powers. So anyway, this movie definitely turned out better than what it should have, though, with all the drama and that behind the scenes, firing Richard Donner, bringing on Lester, doing reshoots, and like certain actors like Gene Hackman refusing to do reshoots, and it was a big shit show. But at the end of the day, it turned out fairly decent. I still really enjoy this film. There's this, and you get the Richard Donner cut, which I did check out. They're both kind of on the same level for different reasons. The Richard Donner cut definitely has a more serious tone to it, right? More like the original film, where this one's a little bit more silly, but I like both, and I think it's going in the B tier for me this time around. It went down just a bit for me. I used to really love it when I watched it for the first time a few years ago. It went down a bit, but not by much. I think B is still a very solid placement for this film. Up next, we got Superman 3. Oh boy. Yeah, what a weird entry. Didn't like it as much this time around. No siree. I was not a fan of it at all, especially the way it starts. Of course, it starts off almost like it's just going to be a Richard Pryor movie, and there's a lot of like slapstick humor with like people running in the poles and stuff, and I'm just like, what is this? It's just way too silly right out the get-go. Like I said, focuses way too much on Richard Pryor's character, Gus, where he's this genius computer whiz guy, but at the same time, he seems like a complete idiot, so his character wasn't written real good, and he ends up working with this evil CEO, and The villains are terrible in here. There's no Lex Luthor, which really you feel that void in this film because, like I said, dealing with this like evil CEO and his sister, this feels like something out of a shitty James Bond movie or something. It just doesn't work for me. And eventually the main villain ends up becoming this supercomputer. It's like, what? I get, again, in the 80s people were starting to fear computers and how they could maybe take over and stuff and end the world with it. So I kind of get that with the supercomputer, but it just does not work in this film. There's like too much going on. It kind of feels episodic because it keeps changing what the story is going to be about, it feels like. We get Kent going to Smallville, but then that doesn't really amount to anything. Like, he meets his high school sweetheart or wherever. Doesn't really go anywhere. They hang out for a bit of the movie, and then she seems to be absent for like the second half, right? And then we never see her again in this franchise, so it kind of feels pointless. The whole junkyard scene with Superman fighting himself, the evil and the good version, makes zero sense. Like, the supercomputer went to make kryptonite, but it was missing an ingredient, so they added tar, and that, for some reason, makes superhero not even evil, just makes him an asshole. Like, he's just ignorant and rude and stuff, and it's like, screw them, I'm not saving them. And it's just like, what? I don't know. It's just terrible, and the fight in the junkyard is just so cheesy and just doesn't work for me. It doesn't amount to much. So, yeah, terrible movie, if you ask me. And the effects are getting worse than ever. They're a big drop from the first two movies. The whole scene where he's at the canyons trying to find the secret lair of the bad guys and the supercomputers there and everything, and they're shooting rockets at him, and it looks like they're looking at a video game shooting rockets at Superman. I'm like, my God, this franchise went downhill quick. So in the past, I would have put this probably at D, but screw that. It's an F tier movie. It's kind of boring too. Like, I'll get into part 4. Part 4 is ridiculous as well, but this one is maybe even more boring than part 4 in my opinion. Oh, and lastly, there's very little Lois Lane in here too. She's like in the 5 minutes of the movie, and that was also very awful in my opinion because I love that character, especially in these original films. So that's terrible. And again, that was because of all the drama behind the scenes of part 2. Margot Kidder didn't want much to do with the third film, so she goes on vacation in this movie. So yeah, it's pretty dumb. Superman 3, F tier. Moving on to the movie Supergirl. This was a first time watch for me, and its reputation is true. It's a terrible movie, my God. It's so bad. I kind of like the way it starts on Argo City. We get Supergirl there with the people she lives with. There's an incident. They lose this like orb. It goes to Earth, so her mission is to go to Earth and retrieve it and bring it back before her city collapses and all of her people are gone, right? But it doesn't make any sense because as soon as she arrives to Earth, she like barely focuses on her mission and decides, hey, let's go to high school. Let's become a student and like have a life on Earth. It makes sense with Clark Kent because he arrived as a kid and he's staying on Earth, right? That's his new home. But she was just there basically for this mission. So it's just dumb to me. Like, it just makes no sense what she's doing. Why don't you focus in on trying to retrieve this orb because your planet might not exist anymore, or your city or whatever it's called. So that's dumb. For a positive note, I like Helen Slater. I think she was a good choice for Supergirl. It's just the script was terrible. Like, she's not the problem here. And I also like that they put Jimmy in here from the original Superman movies because it kind of makes that better connection with them. It makes it seem like they're part of the same franchise at least. Fortunately, no Christopher Reeve, no Superman. You only get him as a poster on the wall here. So yeah, this movie, it's just dumb. Like I said, she's not focusing on her mission. The villain is this witch that isn't that great of a witch until she finds this orb, magical orb that grants her all these powers. And I don't know what the hell she wants to do. Most of the movies, she's focusing on trying to get this guy to love her by using the orb or whatever. It's just so dumb, man. It just doesn't make any sense. One of the biggest action sequences is this construction vehicle, this freaking with a clamp claw on the front, picks up friggin' that guy she's after and like to bring her back to her base, and he's like tearing apart the city with this bulldozer thing, and it's just like it's like one of the only practical action scenes in the film, and it's so dumb. And everything else is just super cheesy and bad effects once again. Supergirl gets sent to the Phantom Zone at one point where it's like, okay, she's stuck there now. But no, she finds a way to escape by like climbing this little mountain and avoiding these little twisters, and she climbs out and gets out in a portal. It's like, I feel like anybody could get out of the Phantom Zone at this point. So it's just a bad movie on all fronts, and it ends with her taking off and going back home. I don't know. It's just very bad to me. So Supergirl, you're an F film. You're worse than Superman 3, but you're all pretty bottom of the barrel movies to me. Up next, we got Superman 4. Most people's most hated Superman movie. And it's bad, man. It's bad. It's so damn cheesy. It takes the cheese and the ridiculousness and the campiness to a whole nother level. Especially since the production was like, the budget was really cut for this, and they just kept removing money in that. And most of the scenes, you can see the wiring attached to Superman and to Nuclear Man, and every time someone's flying, it looks so bad. It's like, how come the 70s movie looks so much better than this late 80s film? It just makes zero sense. It feels like there was a lot less care put into this. The only redeemable qualities about this film is Christopher Reeve still plays a good Superman. He still plays the character well, as well as Gene Hackman. But everything else is just a complete mess. And like, going into this, I was like, this should be better than Superman 3 this time around. I feel like at least there's a good villain. At least there's like with Nuclear Man, he has someone to fight and there's some action. But I forgot how bad that action was and how bad Nuclear Man was. Like, oh man, he has like these large claws. He scratches Superman at one point and almost kills him. Like, it makes him sick. It's like, oh my god, so dumb. It's so cheesy and dumb, man, childish. And Nuclear Man looks like a freaking 80s wrestler. He roars like a lion, and he has the voice of Gene Hackman for some reason, which is just, again, just really dumb, man. I just can't stand it. And their fighting scenes, man, it's just so damn bad. Especially on the moon when they're like beating each other into the moon. God damn ridiculous. So yeah, this movie is just plain garbage. And I went in with hopes that I would like it more on my second watch, but no. It's probably just as bad as the first time I've watched it. Like, there's literally no logic in this movie. Like, they literally take a human girl, bring her to outer space at one point, and she can still breathe and scream and everything. It's like, she doesn't even pass out or nothing. I'm just like, just really dumb. So, yeah, I know we're going a lot in the F category, but that's what this franchise was at this point. Up next, we got Superman Returns. A very odd entry that came out in a weird period of time for superhero movies in general. But in 2006, this came out, and it was supposed to be a direct sequel to Superman 2 and Erase, Part 3 and 4. This one kind of going off the Richard Donner cut, which is very kind of confusing for the fans. Well, not for the fans, for the regular audiences, I guess. So yeah, I just have a hard time placing these characters as the same characters as in the originals. Brandon Routh does his best Christopher Reeve impression, but that's all it feels like on screen. It feels like he's doing an impression instead of being the character, although that's what the script called for. When it comes to Lois Lane, this is not my Lois Lane. Miss Bosworth, she's an okay actress and everything. I just don't like what they do with the character here. Feels nothing like Margot Kidder's version, and again, that's what they're trying to play off of. Kevin Spacey does a decent job as Gene Hackman. I think he's the best impersonator here, if I'm being honest, and his version worked best. But they don't give him a lot to do. He doesn't get a whole lot of screen time or a lot of time to be menacing on screen. He does kind of have that charm and that wit that Gene Hackman had, though. But yeah, his motives are still really outdated. He's still talking about creating land and real estate and all this stuff. And it's like, we're in 2006 now, so it just doesn't work as good for a villain motive, right? And his motive is to put these crystals in the middle of the ocean and create this land, which will overflow flood half of the states, right? But he thinks everybody's going to want a piece of his alien land. But it's all like super pointy and like not appealing looking at all. Like, who would want to live on that? So it's kind of dumb. There's barely any action in this flick. You get one good action sequence with Superman saving people from an airplane. And it's near the first of the movie. So the movie feels really long, over 2 hours long with very little action. It's unfortunate because the movie doesn't do anything horribly wrong to offend the audiences or offend the franchise, right? It plays it a little too safe, though. Like, it doesn't also do anything to change or to make me a fan of this version of Superman, right? So it's tough. It's tough, man. I don't know whether to put this in D or C, honestly. It's kind of riding in between. I think for the sake of this list, I'll put it in C because it's not really offensive. It's not cheesy and ridiculous like some of the other ones, but it's not as entertaining or as fun as the ones above it. So C seems like the good place to put it for now. You also got this plot line of obviously Superman left for 5 years and then came back, and does the world, he has to like prove to the world that they still need him, right? And so that's basically what the storyline's kind of about with him. Very little Clark Kent in here, and the Clark Kent we do get is pretty awful in my opinion, and there's like virtually no relationship between him and Lois Lane basically in this movie. And I just have to mention her kid, how her kid ends up being Superman's kid. Kind of cool, but they don't really do much with it. I mean, you get one scene where he pushes a piano at a bad guy where you realize, oh, he's Superman's kid, but then he doesn't do anything else. He doesn't go alongside Superman, try helping him. I get he's 5 years old, but still, there's other scenes he could have helped his mom out, that's for sure. So it just feels wasted. And then obviously we don't got a future with Superman's son. So this movie is kind of frustrating, even though at the same time, it doesn't do a whole lot wrong. So yeah, that's kind of why it's frustrating. So yeah, I'm leaving it in the C tier for now. Up next, we got Man of Steel, Zack Snyder's version of Superman, and the first in the DC EU storyline. And yeah, one of the better movies in the DC EU, that's for sure. A much more serious, modern take, more gritty, darker version of the story compared to the original, at least. And I appreciate for that. I'm glad it's just not a typical remake like a lot of remakes are carbon copies of the original, right? It's not that. It kind of does its own thing, and it excels at doing its own thing, and I can really appreciate it for that. Henry Cavill makes for a great Superman. He's not my favorite, but he's really good in the role. He definitely has the look, the presence. We don't really get much Clark Kent in here, so it's hard to talk about that. He's Clark Kent to his parents right on the farm, but when it comes to the world, he's kind of a John Doe. He's going from town to town, doing these random jobs, trying not to get caught because he can't help himself, saving people and stuff, right? I'm just not sure how I feel about him being Clark Kent, saving the people at like the oil rig place, like where he's holding up the thing, because there's so many people that seen his face and that, right? It's just like, at this point, most of the world should know who he is, should be able to figure it out. And it doesn't take long for Lois Lane to figure it out. With a little bit of research, she finds out who he is in this film. So that's kind of my only little nitpick. Everything else is freaking great about this. From the Hans Zimmer score, it's fantastic. Forgot to mention the John Williams score in the original. That's fantastic as well. Both are equally great in their own right. I think the action in this movie is fantastic. They use CGI in the right way. It doesn't look cartoonish, I find. They're going through buildings and shit. When Superman has to fight General Zod and his crew, it is pretty damn intense, and they definitely do a lot of destruction to the city. It is just so crazy, and I love that about this film. The action is awesome. And I think out of all these films, this probably has the best storyline, like best written script and story out of all of them, even the original. I think this one might have a tighter story, but again, it came after, so it obviously had a better chance of having a better script, right? So I just think it's a really tight story. It works really well. It's a great updated version. I think General Zod's motives in that for coming to Earth and that makes sense. You see the bad guy's point of view this time around, and they are definitely very threatening in a non-cheesy way like Superman 2. So yeah, I actually really dig this movie. It kind of goes up and down every time I watch it, but it just so happened on this last rewatch, it was way up here. And honestly, right now today, it's my favorite Superman movie. And I'm not a Zack Snyder fan. I'm not one of those crazy toxic people because, you know, their fan base can get crazy. But I do truly believe that this is a great version of the character and a great movie in its own right. Coming up next, we got Batman v Superman. Follow up to Man of Steel, and it literally feels like a follow-up because they're dealing with the destruction of Metropolis in this, and how Superman should be accountable for a lot of this destruction, right? And I like how they tap into that because a lot of superhero movies do not deal with the destruction they cause, right? But this one actually does, in the city, and the justice system, everything's turning towards Superman, being like, should he be held accountable for all the destruction? And should we just let someone like him, that powerful, just be loose and doing what he wants, right? Even though he's saving people and that. I like the questions it brings up and everything. I think Ben Affleck makes for a pretty good Batman. He's more gritty and like grumpy. Much different version than Batman. He's a more cynical version, I feel, like how he's branding people and stuff. I thought that was a cool, different take on the character. I just wish they would have been able to do a Batman movie before this, like on his own, right? So we could connect with the character a bit more and like know a bit more about him. Because I find that's one problem I do have with this movie is there's too much going on in one. You got the Superman fallout from Man of Steel. You got the Batman stuff. You got them, going about each other and end up fighting each other. You got Lex Luthor manipulating both of them and all the things he's trying to do in the background. You got Doomsday. You got them trying to set up the Justice League. You got Wonder Woman showing up. You got way too many plot lines for this one little movie. It tries to set up way too much, and I just feel like we should have at least gotten a Batman movie before the big fight movie, right? I get that they were trying to keep up with Marvel at the time, but it was just not the way to handle this. There's just the too many plot lines, and the other big problem I have with this movie is Lex Luthor, played by Jesse Eisenberg. It's not so much the way he's written, it's the performance. The performance is so cringeworthy and terrible, I can't stand it. It almost ruins the movie for me, honestly. It really does. So it's just unfortunate. There's a lot of good in this movie, though. I just feel like it's cluttered, and it really shouldn't have been. Where should I put this one? To me, it's like in between B and C, but I think I'll put it into B. I think it is a good enough movie. It is fairly solid. The ultimate version is what I'm talking about. I actually never seen the theatrical version of this movie because I own the ultimate cut on Blu-ray. Why am I going to watch the version I always heard was shittier? Maybe someday, but not today. But yeah, I think it sits nice in the B category. Now, lastly, we got the brand new Superman from 2025. I went to see this one in theaters. Actually became the first Superman movie I ever watched in theaters. Because like I said, I wasn't the biggest fan of this character before. I've grown to like him more and more over the years, especially the last like 5 years or so. So I decided to go check this one out. I heard good things. Big fan of James Gunn. I truly believed in him from the get-go. So I want to see what he could make. And for the most part, I was very satisfied with this film. For starters, I like that we're rebooting the story, but we don't get the origin story again. We've seen it enough times. We know, everybody knows how Clark Kent became Superman as a child on the farm in Kansas and everything in Smallville. We know all that already. So I like that we jump 3 years into Superman being Superman. And the movie starts with him falling, being broken, losing a fight for the first time ever. And the movie kind of just doesn't let up. It's full of action from start to finish, so it got great pacing. We got a little bit of that James Gunn humor in here, but I don't think it's too much to take away from the film. A lot of people were scared that it was going to be like another Guardians of the Galaxy situation, but no, I feel like he handles this fairly well. Again, kind of wish it was more Superman focused. They do bring in like the Justice Gang and everything. Again, I feel like they're trying to set up for future stories to be all interconnected, right? I get that, but for your first movie, do like Iron Man did. Do your own thing and build off that. So it's still handled pretty well, the Justice Gang and everything in here, but I just wish they would have went more Superman. But that's just a little nitpick. It's not a big flaw for me. Like I said, there's a lot of action in here, a lot of chaos going on. You got Superman fighting Ultraman, fighting monsters, multiple different types of monsters. Fighting off Lex Luthor himself, played by Nicholas Hoult. I think he does a good job. I thought his character was going to be written a bit better. The way I heard, it was like the best Lex Luthor ever. While he's definitely threatening and everything, he's way better than Jesse Eisenberg's version. I still prefer Gene Hackman. Definitely prefer Gene Hackman as the character myself. And when it comes to Superman, David, what's his name? Cornsweet or something like that. Don't want to screw it up. I don't know these actors personally. I never knew them before this film. I think he does a great job. I think he comes second to Christopher Reeve, honestly. And I feel like a lot of these actors are second to the originals. Same as Lois Lane. I don't know. She's kind of tied for me with Margot Kidder, the one who plays Lois Lane in here. I just love that she brings out the human side of Superman, of Clark Kent, how she can get him, they have their arguments in that, and, he ends up getting frustrated, which just brings out the more human side of Clark Kent and Superman, which, we didn't get to see a whole lot of before. And I really like that, especially since he's been living on Earth since a baby. He's going to be more human-like in his emotions and personality than alien-like, right? I thought the movie did a great job of doing that, too. So the movie does a lot of good things. Like I said, it flies by. It got some good action. It looks really crisp and clean. Like, the cinematography is great in here. Crypto is awesome. That was another thing I was worried about. I was like, how's that dog going to work in this film? But honestly, I love every scene he's in, and probably my favorite character in the movie. He's great. So I think James Gunn did a great job with this movie for starting his new DC timeline. I think he hit it out of the park. It's not a perfect film. It's not my favorite Superman movie, but it is really good. It's one that I will keep rewatching. I watched it already a few times now since it's released. And yeah, I have fun with it every time. And the ending kind of gets me excited to see the new Supergirl movie, because the old Supergirl movie doesn't get me excited at all. But yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what direction this goes into. And one last thing, I really like how at the end, Superman wants them to play the message that his parents sent, but it's his human parents this time around. He realizes that's the good side of him, comes from those parents, so not his original parents. Watching this in theaters, that was the one flaw I had. I was like, I'm not a big fan of Jor-El, like Superman's real parents, wanting him to go to Earth and to treat humans like this puny civilization, and how he could control them and take over, conquer, basically be these conquerors. Wasn't a big fan of that, but then I learned to find out that there was actually comics that did deal with this timeline where his parents sent him here for different purposes. So I'm like, doesn't bother me as much, but at first it did bother me about how the reason why his parents sent him there and the message that was corrupted sent with him. So while this movie isn't perfect, it has a few flaws, a few nitpicks for me. I think for the most part, it gets things right. I find it's really rewatchable, really fun to rewatch. And to me, it got good casting too. So to me, it's A tier. And I'm really interested to see where they're going to bring this character in the future. What they're going to do with him. How is he going to interact and work in like the Justice League and everything. It's going to be interesting. So there you have it, guys. There's my tier ranking of all the Superman movies right up to the newest one. I filled out the tier list. I mean, we got something in every category, even though there is a lot of F tier movies in here. It's not a fun franchise to binge from start to finish because of the quality just really dips before it goes back up. But it is what it is. I'm still a fan of half of these movies anyway, and I'll be gladly to rewatch them in the future. And like I said, I can't wait to see what James Gunn and his team does with the new DC timeline. So this is going to be interesting. Let me know how you guys tier rank these movies using the S, A, B, C, D, F tiers in the comments section. Would love to see it. Which is your favorite? Which is your least favorite? Which movies have you not seen? I know a lot of people haven't seen Supergirl or Superman and the Mole Men. That's normal because I never seen them before either. These were first time watches for me too. If you're interested, check them out, but just be wary. They're not the best movies in the franchise by any means. So there you have it, guys. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Letterboxd. I have Instagram, but I kind of deleted it. I barely use it, so I don't think I'll be on Instagram too often anymore. So I'll probably get rid of the links in my description for that. But if you want my Letterboxd, it's down there. And yeah, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, thanks for watching.